Garfield in the rough. Those of you already know who Garfield is. Trust me, those of you already know who he is. He's already been around since the late 70s. Everybody knows that he's the most laziest cat of all time. And Garfield has been around for a very long time. Unfortunately, the actor who played Garfield surrounded music passed on a long time ago, but he'll always play as the best voice actor of Garfield in the late 80s, next to Bill Murray voicing Garfield. But unfortunately, I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the good old classic 1984 24 short movie, Garfield in the Rough, where Garfield gets bored at home. Now that he hears John thinking about having a vacation trip and about going to other places. Is that Thailand or Hawaii? But instead, they couldn't afford to go any of those places, so they go out camping, unaware that there's a killer panther on the loose. It's one of the most scariest things in childhood history that the dangerous panther is on the loose. Unaware that John and I almost forgot our best dog Odie, who's not the brightest of the group, that cannot talk. Who's always dim-witted, kind-hearted to Garfield, despite and Garfield always treats Odie like trash, but they're the closest family membership ever. And John is just a pet owner to Garfield since he got nobody to look after him. They do end up in camping, unaware of the dangerous nightmare-fueled panther, which is right there, or is there in the middle of the camping trip. Also, it does have some interesting songs in it. Also, these ones last for like 24 minutes, all except for Garfield's 9 lives, which is probably longer than the other ones. It has like a few interesting characters that you only get to see once in the history time. I mean, Bunny Rabbit and the Beaver explain about how the killer or panther that's on the loose, because it has green eyes. If I would look deep into your soul, he explains. And you've got murderous eyes and sharp teeth and jaws. That's 10 times their size. And Garfield meets a rabbit that he never saw before, thinking was going to eat him, but only friendly ones. He ends up in nature and has a beautiful song to go with it. But luckily, wait, this cartoon is only like 24 minutes short, and that the camper guys warn them about the panther that's on the loose, but at the campfire, or burns away. And when they are taking a nap, and then in the morning, that Odie licks John's toes. Also do some camping, great outdoors, where John is doing a tent that Garfield enjoys the wilderness. Then the panther starts attacking them, but luckily Garfield they only make a run for it. And then so that John goes inside the tent and sneaks on by. And when the panther destroys the tent, and they sneak away and goes inside the car, or Garfield himself, as much as a cat he is, goes up a tree. See that the panther was about to get John and Odie, and he does the most heroic thing possible. He fights off the panther, which is the coolest thing he ever did. Unfortunately, the fight cuts shortly when the panther shoots off Garfield. And luckily the wilderness guy show up and just in time and recognize the panther and put it to sleep and they go back where they belong. And that was Garfield in the Rough. It's a pretty good, simple, animated cartoon for children. I might have watched it before or not. And yes, there's like a few of these other Garfield movies out there. A Halloween Adventure, which I did not talk about. Or how Garfield and Odie first met. But there's like way too many for me to explain all of them. That Garfield himself was a great history from all his movies, and I do not mean one with Bill Murray, but one of them with being CGI animated movie. Like Garfield gets real, and nobody knows existed. I'm just explaining that Garfield had a great history time having all these amazing movies that have been around now since the 80s and early 90s. And the TV show Garfield and Friends, and Heathcliff is kind of a wannabe of Garfield. Now that Garfield's favorite food is obviously lasagna or pizza or spaghetti. I'm just saying that because the new Garfield movie is coming out pretty soon in 2024. There was gonna be like almost 20 years since the live-action Garfield movie existed, and most likely its sequel, Tale of Two Kitties. Sadly, I'm not allowed to show any clips of the Garfield in the rough, so I don't want to get copyrighted by YouTube. But I'll show you like a still image of it. Technically, the other Garfields are pretty good, actually. The first one is basically them end up in a pound and then get out from the pound and plays a sad song. Again, Odie's about to get gassed to death, which is pretty messed up. But nonetheless, they get out there alive. And so there's the other alley cats and dogs. It's from their prison.
All the color has gone out of my life. Boy, this is the life. Sun, surf, and miles.
You know, Surrender Music is not around anymore, but he does a pretty good voice actor to Garfield. And most likely, Peter Venkman from the real Ghostbusters. Which is pretty much a good fun fact that he plays and pretty well on there. Better than Dave Coulier. All I can say is Garfield is one of the best, most laziest cats you ever enjoy seeing in history time of great merchandises. And a few crossovers he was in was All Stars cartoon, which I'll get to another time. All I know is Garfield is everybody's favorite childhood cartoon character for a very long time. Someday I'll talk about the live-action movie. But since I talked about a few of the other Garfield ones, including the Halloween one, which I did not say about quite yet. But what I do know about the Halloween one is them there is in the haunted house. He meets a creepy old guy. The Halloween one is a pretty good one. It's a bit hilarious here and there that Garfield and Odie ends up in a spooky haunted house and they gather alive that there was a real ghost and play that classic Halloween song of Brady Cat, blah 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 blah. So the animation kind of reminds me of the gold classic Charlie Brown, where one of the characters had black dotted eyes. It's stupendously well done. And it's everybody's favorite nostalgia, a classic cartoon show of all time. And there's like Binky the Clown, which Garfield can't stand, but the cat, and like him, can't stand Binky the Clown being extremely annoying, but he does appear in most likely Garfield and Friends show, and he finds him a nuisance. But still, it's a pretty good nostalgia feeling to watch these old classic Spun Garfield shows. Oh, that's been going on to this very day. And hopefully, the new Garfield movie we're about to see pretty soon will be interesting. And yes, I am also aware that there's video games too. So, I'll get to those ones soon as possible. So, now I've reviewed, well, most likely 3 of them. And yes, I get Speed's playlist that talked about it years ago. Way over there. All I know is Garfield will always be everybody's favorite fat, lazy, lasagna-loving cat ever existed. And most likely on Robot Chicken. Thank you all for watching. Catch you all next time. And someday I'll talk about the live action movies. Farewell.